This conference will now be recorded.
Okay.
Great.
So with that, I'm going to, unless anybody has any questions on procedure, it is also possible for those of you who use the computer link to provide comments or questions, which I will try to MC and bring to the attention of the group for the members of the general public. And I don't believe there's anything else I needed to discuss right now. So with that, I will turn it over to Phil Ronca to begin the meeting.
Great. Thank you, Scott. And welcome everybody to the May 2020 Trapboro Council meeting. I hope everybody is safe and well and avoiding, the potential of catching this horrible virus. I think we all are probably tracking this pretty closely. I did see that the cases reported in Montgomery County were 44 as of 3 o'clock today, daily cases, and that's the lowest since April 1st. So that's a good sign. There was a big spike in deaths, but I think that has to do with a change in the way they're reporting deaths, or it could be a carryover, but at least the cases, the 7-day average cases are declining. So that's a good thing. A lot of good information out there. But again, hope everybody's staying safe and well. So with that, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll just lead the Pledge of Allegiance if that's okay. So people standing, okay. So everybody together, I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. For all. Thank you all. Okay, we will have an executive session at the end of this, so that means just the council members, mayor, solicitor will stay on for that. Other than that, let's have a roll call.
Brett Yeagley. Pat Webster.
Present.
Stu Strauss.
Here.
Mallory Perlin.
Here.
Scott Martin.
Here.
Kathy Johnson. Phil Ronca.
Here.
Dave Honorado.
Here.
John Klink.
Here.
Paul Schmull.
Here.
Mayor Wismer. Okay, so it looks like everyone's present but the mayor and Kathy.
Okay, thank you, Tamara. All right, everybody has a copy of the minutes from the April 7th, 2020 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Stu, second by Brett.
Can
Do a roll call.
can we hang on one second? Dave wanted to, I think, ask that we adopt this a specific way.
Yeah,
Okay.
as part of the motion, we'll just include in the minutes, and I wanted to bring this to your attention before you vote, that because there is a question as to whether the meeting in April was a legitimate meeting as a result of the law, I want to specifically have Tamara put in this motion that in addition to approving the minutes, that you are ratifying each and every decision that was made or vote that was taken on April the 7th. So she will list in the minutes of tonight's meeting those items that you voted on, and by voting yay to support the minutes, you're ratifying the decisions made on April the 7th. And Tamara, do you just want to identify them quickly for the record? What were
Sure. Sure. The items that were voted on at the last meeting were the treasurer's or motion to pay all the bills, including the general fund, the escrow fund, and the liquid fuels fund. There was a motion to ratify the disaster declarations that were made on the March 20th, 27th, and April 3rd. You extended the discount period for real estate tax until May 31st. And we also signed a policy with AmTrust for workers' comp and canceled our policy with SWIFT. You made a motion to move the June meeting to June 9th, and then also continue the public hearing on ordinance 455 until June 9th.
And then, I don't know if it matters, but there was a motion to approve the March minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, and yes, and to, I apologize.
All right, so David, you're essentially saying, by saying aye to this motion, it's not only the motion to approve the April minutes, but also all the things Tamara just listed.
Yeah, so then we don't have to go through and vote on each one of them again.
Okay.
You're approving en masse the ratification of all those decisions.
All right, Tamara, since you said you can't see everybody, why don't you do a roll call?
Sure. Brett,
Aye.
Pat,
All right,
I'm sorry. In fairness, I didn't say, because of all that, I didn't say any questions or comments. I apologize,
oh,
Tamara.
I'm sorry.
Pat, do you have a question or comment?
No.
Anybody? Okay. Anybody questions or comments?
I just wanted to note that Kathy has joined the meeting as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Welcome, Kathy.
can I ask, where is Kathy, like caller number what? Where is she?
She's
Okay, I
just the
see her.
C.
I see her.
I don't have an audio, a visual on her though.
Phil, is there a
Yeah.
chance down below, we have caller number 1 and caller number 2? If they're guests, could you mute them right now? I don't know where the feedback's coming from. But it's,
Scott can mute him.
thank you.
All right, so I don't see Kathy.
I see,
She doesn't have a picture, but she is identified as Kathy. You see her now?
yes, I see her.
Phil needs to be unmuted. There you go.
Okay, so let's do the roll call. I don't think there are any questions or comments. Let's do the roll call.
Okay, Brett? Still yes, I assume. Pat?
Yes.
Stu? I'm sorry, Stu, you're mute. I can't see you and you're muted, I think. Stu,
What's pause mean?
yeah, he has to unpause. If you touch the 3 dots or the upper right-hand corner, it pauses you. All right, well, I'll go back to him. Mallory?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Kathy?
I'm not sure Kathy even knows the motion.
Oh, we're approving the minutes and ratifying the actions that were taken at the last meeting. I didn't,
Tuesday.
Stu, are you okay with the motion?
He's paused again.
Stop pausing yourself. The problem with that, Pat, was that Tamara can't see everybody.
Right, well, why don't we do this? If you're not on the audio, put your thumbs up or thumbs down, and
Okay,
then
Stu's good. I got Stu.
still you can say, we got a thumbs up from Stu or a thumbs down, et cetera.
Okay.
I can
all
see,
right.
I actually can see Stu now.
I can see everybody, so I can do that if we
I
need.
can
Other
see
than
everybody
Kathy, I
too.
can't see
Well, I
Kathy.
can't see Kathy.
All right. Kathy, can you hear us? Are you okay with the motion?
She's got to unmute herself. I don't know what the deal is.
Oh, there we are. Am I
There
on
we go.
now?
You
You
are
are
now,
good,
yes.
Kathy. We hear
Camera?
you.
Yes.
And there we go. And there's my camera. Yeah, I got to do it from my phone. I was trying to log in from my yoga from my tablet and it's not working. So
Okay, I can talk now.
anyway,
Okay. All right. So,
I'm a yes too.
okay. Sorry, Phil. Yeah, yes. Okay. So everybody, 7.
All right, motion carries.
Yes. Sorry.
This is going swimmingly. So now's a public forum for agenda, non-agenda items. So I know we have at least a couple members of the public that are on the call, Sarah and Fred for sure, maybe others. So do either of you or anybody on the call from the public have an agenda or non-agenda topic they want to cover now?
Hey guys, it's Sarah.
Hi,
Hi,
Sarah.
Sarah.
Hello all, nice to see faces. I just wanted to let you guys know that Joe's office is up and running of sorts. We're all still working mostly remotely. Occasionally we're in the office with a phone. So if you guys need anything or if you have any constituents with unemployment problems, feel free to send them our way.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey, Phil, just
Yep, good.
just so Sarah knows, Joe has personally donated hand sanitizer and masks to the farmhouse, so there's a thank you for that.
Very nice. Hey, Kathy. All right, any other topics?
The only thing that I had wanted to bring up, I can bring it up later, maybe in Tamara's report, where you could discuss it all, the North Borough Line road situation.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll defer to then.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Borough Engineers report, Paul?
Oh, he's muted.
Paul, you're gonna have to unmute.
Yeah, sorry about that. For the West First Avenue project, I believe we're looking to push that back, Tamara, for, not sure, to another month, I guess, or where are we at with?
Well, probably the paving, we're having some issues with residents getting curbs done, so yes, we were originally going to do the paving probably about the second week of June. We're looking to push that maybe to July, depending on Drumheller's schedule as well, because we're going to have him come in and do concrete work also. So it will not be happening in June. Most likely it would be, well, unless it started at the very end of June or July. But we are hoping to still planning to get that done before school starts, and with the optimism that school is going to start. So.
Fair enough. Okay. Also with that, there was some work to be done for the pipe. We were going to do the trench solution because of the COVID. Obviously, they're just opening now, so I contacted them, and they're just trying to get everything together right now, schedule. So they said the earliest would be at the end of this month or the beginning of next month to finish that project. So it won't interfere with the pavement project. We'll have it done before then. We did the Main Street sidewalk and curb assessment. We submitted that. I believe you all have that in your packets. Real quick, for the numbers, we ended up with 12,346 square feet of sidewalk. We identified 3,399 a curb and 18 handicap ramps. And just using the numbers for the concrete for Drumheller, that would equate to a total of $408,426.75 if we use that, if we did all of the sidewalk, linear feet of curbing, and the handicap ramps.
Wait, that figure was for all three?
The 408,000, yeah, that was for all three of those items.
Wow.
Based on Drumheller's
That's not bad. I thought it
2019
was like
price.
$1 million.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking it was gonna be.
That was the sidewalk, curb, and the handicap ramps.
Correct. Now, the handicap ramp would be a little bit more because since that's in a PennDOT right away, we'd have to get a survey and all that. So in order to do something like that, you probably have to add another $35,000 to that for design, permitting, and all that.
All right.
Do we have any sense of when PennDOT's coming through on that road?
Well, like I said, it's on the schedule for 2021 and 22. I'm going to try to see if that's still on the schedule for that time, if they have any flexibility, if they're trying to push it off. I mean, you know, if I don't know if that's a firm date, but as of last year when I met with them, that was their date. So I just don't know if that's accurate. Paul, does Drumheller based on prevailing wage? Drumheller's numbers? I don't know
That's
that
a
it
good point.
is.
I don't think it is. I think we'd have, you're right, you'd probably have to increase that by like 20, 25% because it would be prevailing wages.
Okay.
Yeah, just, because I don't think we usually plan on doing over
Tamara,
25,000.
Pat,
Yes,
Pat would like the floor. She's got a comment.
okay.
So I'd like to make a suggestion. When Tamara talks about, you know, contacting PennDOT to try to see where they stand and all of that, that's all well and good, but I'd like to recommend that if she wants to develop a letter, I suggest a letter from the president of council to PennDOT laying out the deterioration of Main Street, the fact that we were told at one point it was going to be 2016, 2019. So just to get it on the record, it can have a positive tone, but we need to be firm from president of council, just to get it into the record. And I would suggest that we do it periodically, follow up in writing to them. Any thoughts?
May I just say, and I think that's a good idea. I think we need to look at though what our time frame might need to be for the sidewalk and curb. If I don't know if we want to, but if we wanted to consider a grant, you know, we're not going to be able to get that done before 2021 either. So if they do push it to 2022, that might actually be better to coordinate. I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing out that we do want to be sensitive.
I think to Pat's point, it may not be, we want this done, you know, we've been waiting and we want it done. It could be, we're trying to plan and we have no idea when it's being done and it really needs to get done. And we need more definitive commitment on their part. And then we can do what we have to do.
And we have new information now. We sent the engineer out. We have data. So we're trying to cooperate with them. Now, I'm not saying that it needs to be totally punitive, but I think it needs to be in writing and it needs to be very specific to get them to call back. Paul, I have a question. Where are you?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Paul, how many properties are we talking? Did I miss you saying that, or was it in the report?
I don't believe I noted that. Let me see if I have something real quick here.
I didn't know if well, maybe you wouldn't have any way of knowing, like, are we talking, okay, 7 nonprofits, 27 businesses, you know, or maybe Tamara would have that. I don't know that it matters, but maybe it does. I don't know. I'd like to know a number.
Pat, you're right.
We're looking at about 75 properties.
Yeah, and we don't have them broken down yet. I mean, I have the individual, I don't want to say individual pieces because I think normally when we get a sketch from Barry Ice that it's a specific property, some of these have 2 or 3 properties because I think we're not sure exactly where property lines are. So I'm not sure, but I do know that, for example, quite a few of the nonprofits that we have are on that list.
I think it would be helpful too, at some point, Tamara, if
Yes.
we know that roughly 75 properties have been identified by the engineer. How many properties total are we talking on Main Street?
I think that, I did have that list last month. I can find that while we're talking about things. Yes.
And one final thing on the street, the curbs. You'll recall the resident, Eileen Gauss, came to several meetings and took pictures, and she's in Carriage Ridge behind Dairy Queen. She contacted me to say that she was not able to join us tonight on the call, but just in case you were wondering, she is not going to let this go. So we had a very cooperative discussion about the economy, the challenges, but nonetheless, you know, we need to have it repaired, and so she is going to stay on top of it.
Yeah.
You know.
Let's go in a second, Stu. I'm sorry, go ahead, Pat. Let me comment on that first. Number one, it was great for her to kind of bring this forward. It doesn't matter whether she lets it go or not. We're not doing it for her. We're doing this for the community. We're doing everything we can, and the only thing that held us up as long as it did were the concerns about individuals and the cost and a number of other things, and the timing of the street, when that was going to be done, and we wanted to make sure we were in compliance. So none of us are worried about whether or not somebody lets something go. We work for the community. We don't work for one person.
But when people take their time to come to the meetings and then took a time to call.
Pat, she brought a good thing forward. It's great. She can continue to come and follow it, but it's great that she brought something up that has nothing to do with her. We're doing this for the community. Go ahead, Stu.
Yeah, a question I have, Paul.
Yeah.
Have you identified the ones that are complete safety hazards versus ones that are marginal safety hazards? So, I mean, the ones that are really.
I know it wasn't me. I just put myself on mute and it continued. So if you're not on mute, if you're not Stu or Paul, put yourself on mute.
What's that?
I said, if you're not Stu or Paul, put yourself on mute. Go ahead, Stu.
Paul.
Yes.
Okay, have you identified the ones that are complete safety hazards that have to be done right away versus ones that could possibly wait? Now, for example, where the person that Pat was talking about, the one residence, if you look at the Dairy Queen, for example, property, that is a major safety hazard, whereas some of the other ones aren't quite as much. Should we as a council look at the ones that are really, really bad first and try to get them fixed and maybe let the other ones go a little bit farther? I honestly think that you should grade the sidewalks. This area has to be done right away. The other ones could possibly wait till a later time.
To answer your question, no, we did not. We just noted which ones we said need to repair and which ones didn't. We didn't grade them as far as hazards and all that. And I guess the one thing, when you're saying that, then it depends on, obviously the neighbors and all that are paying for it. But if the next item on our agenda is for the grant, if we go for that grant, you're going to look at all of them because you're going to have to that as part of the grant versus just doing individual ones, because then we're less likely to get the grant.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry.
And I think it's really dangerous to even identify Dairy Queen between us, because we have at least a dozen others that are horrendous and major safety. I'd be more inclined if we had some that might fall in the marginal category, rather than to try to say what's safe and what's not safe. But from what I can see driving down Main Street, Dairy Queen in no way is the one that goes to the top above all the rest. We have many of them that are treacherous.
Yeah, that's right. I think the other thing is we're going to have to think through this, because it may make sense to get them all fixed no matter how bad they are. We have to figure this out. There may be cost savings there. There may be, instead of fixing some things now and some 2 years from now, we may want to get it all done. But I'm not saying we would. I think we have to understand whether it's better to do it all now or to do it in phases. Scott?
Yeah, I was just going to sort of echo your sentiment that there may be some advantages cost-wise to doing it all at once. If you have one contractor do it, just sort of economies of scale, that kind of thing, as opposed to doing it in piecemeal.
Especially if it's under a grant too.
Yeah.
Paul, the question I have is, I'm not sure how you handled driveway aprons. Did you treat them as if they were concrete, they had to be repaired? If they were asphalt, they were ignored, or they have to be switched out to concrete? Did you look at those as well?
We looked at if they were concrete aprons, if they needed to be replaced. If they're asphalt in bad condition, we could just replace in concrete. But I don't believe there's any asphalt that was in bad condition, so we didn't note those. If it was asphalt.
Okay, so you didn't note that. So if there was a business that had an asphalt driveway and it was in good condition, you didn't note it?
Correct.
All right. Anybody else? Questions for Paul?
I just had a couple follow-up points. There's 139 properties on Main Street, and we totaled that 86 of them were had something that was identified. Now some of them might be owned by the same person or something, but I think Ellen dropped your sketches in the spreadsheet and we came up with 86. So we didn't get total footage though. We didn't get that far yet, but you had that number for us. And then the other thing, just to throw out there is that there are some, I think we should look at maybe with the asphalt to concrete, because I know I've told some people that I know when you guys were out there, you were looking at concrete, but that is something that we might want to determine that we include, because we've made some other people do concrete. So I don't know. I know the borough would have to, we'd be one of those people also, but it's just something, I guess, that we want to think about. If we're telling people consistently that they can't pave over it, do we want that to be corrected when we do this?
No,
So
understood. Go ahead, Pat.
Paul, on your diagram in the lower right where the borough starts at Center Avenue, and see you have the boundary line. It looks to me like the Allstate building is on the boundary line, but it looks like when it appears that you started at Center Avenue, the one side of Center Avenue, that Allstate sidewalk. Don't miss that. It needs to be added.
Where, I'm sorry, where again, Pat? I just got to
So if
The
you look
west
at
end.
the west end of Main Street,
okay.
number 1 Main Street, I think it might be the address, the Allstate building there.
Okay.
It looks like the boundary line is going through it, but it does not look like that property's identified.
no, and I think you're right. And there are a couple of things, like we haven't really had time to go over this and proof it. I mean, we got the sketches and stuff from Paul last week, but there are a couple of things too that I'd like to go over. And I did not go out with them when they went, which I originally intended to, because of they did it during the shutdown. I thought it would be best if they just went on their own, and then I could go out later and look at their markings or drawings. But there may be a few additions to this, I think, but I think this is a pretty good start to
it's a good
identify the
start.
majority of it.
Do you have a comment, Brad? I thought you had your hand up. So in terms of next steps, go ahead, Steve.
Well, this is not related to the sidewalks. Let's
All
complete
right,
this.
before we go on, so in terms of next steps, we need kind of a lead, a sidewalk lead for this project. I mean, obviously Tamara will handle it as from the borough manager standpoint. We need a council member, and it could fall under walkability, but to be honest with you, unless people object, I'm happy to take the lead on this and help drive it, both in terms of what has to be done, the steps, bringing things back to council for review, and also, the grant process and shepherding that and making sure we're getting all the input we need and the best chance of getting the grant. Unless there's someone else that wants to do it, I'm happy to do it. I'm not happy to do it, but I will do it. Anybody else? All right,
I'm all for Phil doing it.
Thanks. So Tamara, Paul, and I will work on this, and we'll bring things in front of the council. But this has to be fast moving. And would you say the grant deadline was July?
So the CFA DCD multimodal, the deadline is July 31st. Again, I don't know if that'll get extended or not because of the shutdown, but at this point, as far as I know, the deadline's July 31st. So that's, I'm sure there's going to have to be, resolution passed and some other things, but I did want to put it on the agenda tonight so that we could talk about it and maybe get approval to work with, Barry Isett and get cost estimates and those kinds of things.
We'll just cover that now.
Sure.
So Tamara's essentially asking for authorization to work with Barry Isett, and there'll be some costs involved. They don't do the grant stuff for free, right? There's some cost involved with it.
Well, typically we do, like the write-ups and all that, but with this specific grant, there's going to be some cost estimates, some exhibits and all that we have to produce. So that's a little bit above and beyond the.
And can you give an estimate of what the cost would be, or not to exceed kind of thing?
I mean, I would think $3 to $4 grand would be max. I would hope we wouldn't be to that point, but.
So is there a motion to authorize Tamara to work with Barry Isaacs to pull the grant together?
I'll make that.
motion.
I think Scott wanted to make that. I appreciate when Pat Sam was up. All right, there's a motion and a
I'll
second,
second.
and the motion is to basically work on this grant, authorizes to work on this grant along with up to $4,000 in potential Barry Isaac costs for any of the diagrams, attachments, any of the assorted information that is to support the grant. And in addition, we also input and what's that woman's name? Eileen, did you say that? Or what was her name?
Eileen, Gus?
Yeah, and resident input is important to this kind of thing too. Be nice if we had a list of residents that, I don't know how that affects grants, but, and then Sarah, to your point, I don't know if help from Mr. Risi or some of the other, representatives or senators, I don't know if that can help, but we should try to stack everything we can in our favor to try to get this grant that Main Street's a mess.
As soon as you guys are ready for a letter of support, we usually just ask for a week for turnaround. A little longer would be nice these days,
Okay.
but and I know you can ask Senator Mensch as well.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, any questions or comments? Go ahead, Pat.
I had a question. So I just wanted to confirm with Paul that for this grant, we are going to heavily utilize your experts there at ISETS, right?
Yes.
Because
That's who we're using, yeah. We're using, so the person that writes the grant, we're gonna lean on them heavily to get it right, but in addition, there'll be some costs related to diagrams and engineering. But there won't be any cost for the writing part, right, Paul? You're
Correct.
expert. Yeah.
Correct.
So I just wanted to capture that,
Clarification, Pat.
confirm
Yep,
that
good
the person's
clarification.
still there, they're not on maternity leave or some strange thing.
No,
that
no,
you
no,
don't
they're still
have.
Yeah, and this is our #1 priority for them, all right? Any other
Could I-
questions or comments?
I'm not sure who made and seconded.
It was
I know-
Scott and Stu.
Okay, I knew it was Stu, but okay, Scott. Okay, thank you.
You want to try roll call again?
Sure. Let's see what that was. So Brett,
Yay.
Pat,
She said yes.
Yes.
Stu,
Yes.
Mallory,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Kathy,
She said yes.
and Phil.
Yes. Okay, good. All
All
right,
right.
what else you got, Paul?
Then the next thing would be the BMP improvements for Jefferson Court. Should be in packet our plan set for the improvements. And then we have an updated cost estimate, which is pretty close to what original one was. So we'd be looking if council is acceptable to proceed with going that out to bid, getting the bid document. We've got the bid documents almost completed and going out to bid with those.
And that was in this year's budget, the construction of that.
Wait, what is this again?
This is this a one of the water?
This is one of the BMP improvements
Right, yeah,
that we're dictated to do for the next 5 years to get that
Right.
permit requirements.
So for the thing we're doing in College Woods, they've been on it like, hey, we have to delay it and we have to review it and this and that, but that's for Jefferson Court. We don't have any.
We don't have that, right? They reviewed it, they were fine with
This looks
it.
good, do it.
Yep,
So all you need is a motion to move this forward.
correct.
Okay, is there a motion? Move this forward. Kathy, Kathy, you're on
I
mute.
can't hear Kathy.
You're still on mute.
I mean, she doesn't say that she is, but I can't.
Kathy,
Kathy's not on mute, but we can't.
oh, I can't hear her.
I can't
No.
hear either.
Can anyone read lips?
She's very passionate about what she's saying.
Well, she can
I think she
type.
said she's gonna type.
Oh, I got comments. Okay.
Oh, okay, Scott.
Okay.
Send it to everybody. Kathy,
Please
up,
mute
up,
when not speaking. I have nothing from her on that.
Kathy, up top in the little air balloon, you can,
So check label. What is the annual budget for BMP?
okay, that works.
That's her question.
Sorry, I muted. We budgeted $80,000 this year because we budgeted for this one and the one in College Woods.
And how much is that? Do we know how much College Woods will be about?
That was thought to be around 38,000.
Okay, so look, we should be on budget, Kathy. We're close. All right, great. She's good. All right, did we get a motion though? I don't think we got a motion.
No.
I'll make
that motion. Brett's made a
Brett made
motion.
the motion and Scott seconded it. All right, any questions or comments? All those in favor say, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Sarah. Roll call.
Oh, okay. Brett,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes, she said, thumbs up.
Stu,
Yes.
Mallory? Yes. Scott,
Thumbs up.
Kathy?
She said thumbs up.
And Phil.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, unanimously carried.
All right, motion is approved. Okay. Anything else, Paul?
That's all that I had.
Anything else for Paul? Go ahead, Stu.
Yeah, Paul, where are we at as far as on inspections and UNOs? How far are you guys behind in TREP?
I haven't touched base with for our UNO stuff yet. Everyone got on staff on Friday, so I'll touch base and find with you on that. As far as inspection outside, concrete and all that, we've been on track. So they just started Monday, and we're actually going to go out tomorrow to do inspections for some curb work. So I can give an update to Mayor tomorrow as far as where we are with the UNO.
I can actually update that.
Okay.
So Don did start back up on Friday, and he's doing inspections. The UNOs, we are doing them as of right now, if the house is vacant, we've scheduled some that are vacant. We haven't scheduled any that are occupied. What we're probably going to do is request that there's only one person, either the realtor or the owner there when they do it, and do masks and gloves. But right now we're pretty much back on track as far as inspections, and people have been calling. I do know that there was some work that was done during the time period where nobody called for inspections. There has been some work going on by contractors that weren't complying, but we're trying to figure out how we want to deal with that. But we're back pretty much on schedule. And we did issue some UNOs during the time it was shut down. They were temporary UNOs, and the buyer had to sign and acknowledge that they understood that a inspection had to be done within 30 days once the order was lifted, and that if there were things that needed to be taken care of, it was their responsibility unless they had another agreement with the seller. And we've had some where the seller put up some escrow money. So we've been working through it, but they're back doing inspections at this point.
It's okay, Stu?
Yep.
Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments for Paul? Go ahead, Scott.
How are we faring at the Rose property?
I have not been out there. I haven't heard complaints yet. And right now, I'm going with talking to the engineer as far as his latest rendition. And looks like we may do a pipe going across the street that will be kind of emergency overflow.
Thanks.
All right. Anybody else?
But question on that, Paul.
Yes.
So what do we expect to see on that by next meeting? Just so that, you know, specifically, what's the deliverable by the June meeting?
I'm hoping a plan that I agree with, so that I can share it with the council to say this is their plan, that the next step going forward to remedy the situation.
And would that be paid for by the,
I'm assuming that'd be paid by the owner, that they would do it. I mean, the engineer's designing it. I mean, that's my
well, just know that
assumption.
we're, council is expecting the same thing.
Correct, yeah. So that's been my assumption. That's the way I've been understanding it from the conversations with them.
Okay.
And I bill Paul's, I've been billing Paul's time, not that there has been the last month or so, but I've been billing any time towards that project to iDesign. So.
All right, great.
Make sure that Paul
That makes
heard it
sense.
from us. That
Yep.
when he's in discussion with them, that he knows in advance that. Thank you.
Well, apparently Tamara's already billing it that way, so I think we're good. Anybody else? Any questions or comments? All right, thank you, Paul. John, treasurer's report?
Aye.
Paul, are you leaving? Did you say bye?
All right, Paul.
Yes, I said bye.
He
waved.
All right, John, go ahead. You're good. John, you're on mute.
So while we're waiting for John to come on, I'd like to say maybe for the meetings moving forward, that we would consider having the engineer present for the entire meeting. And it's something that can be discussed. If anybody else has any thoughts on it, if Paul has any thoughts on it, but frequently things come up during the manager's portion of the meeting. And I just, it's the way it's always been done. And I think it would make more sense to have the engineer there. So I'm just throwing that out at this
The
time.
problem with having Paul stay through Tamara's, maybe he should stay through the solicitor's report. Sometimes stuff comes up there too.
Hey, John, I'm having trouble hearing you, John. I can't seem
I
to.
haven't started talking in a few minutes. How about now?
You're good
Hold on
now.
1 second, John, you're
Okay.
good. So is everybody okay with Paul staying through the solicitor's report for future meetings to see how it goes?
Yes.
I've never seen an engineer leave, but I know that it's the way that we do it here, and I don't know where it started, but just a thought.
I'm just trying to save some costs, that's all. I don't know where it started either, but I think under Nevin, it was a way to save. I think he was staying for the whole meeting at one point. And maybe it might have preceded Paul. Okay, so Paul,
Thank
you don't mind staying through the solicitor's report?
Yeah, I'll
You do
stay
that
to the
today?
solicitor's report.
And the manager can revisit that and look at what is the cost and the savings and.
Yeah, that's fine, Pat. Okay, good observation, Pat. Thank you. All right, John, we're ready for the treasurer's report. Go ahead.
Okay, everybody can hear me now?
Yes.
Great. All right, everyone should have a copy of the treasurer's report. They were emailed on Saturday, I believe. Page 1, as usual, is the bill list for the general fund. There were actually 3 payrolls in the month of April. The credit card activity and check numbers 2947 through 2971. The total general fund distribution was $75,393.17.
Okay, thanks, John. Is there a motion to approve the bill list for the general fund?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right. Questions or comments? All right, roll call vote.
But
Before we do that, Dave, I could see everybody. If they do a thumbs up, can I tell Tamara, or does Tamara have to see them?
No, you can tell Tamara, as long as we have an audio that everyone's thumbs are
Okay.
up.
All right,
Yeah,
thank
we
you.
can record it.
All right, so all in favor, thumbs up. Okay, it's unanimous. All 7 council members said aye. There are no nays. Motion carries. Go ahead, John.
Thank you. A little diversion. Tamara got in touch with me earlier today and asked me to come in and cut another check. This one will not be dated for April. It will be dated today. It's check number 2972 to Russo Landscaping for $1,907.50. And that represents 50% of the mulch cost for Borough Hall, Rambo Park, and the McElwain Trail.
Agenda, should we approve Russo, Tamara, for approving the check?
We couldn't understand you, Stu.
Part of what we're supposed to vote on, and it's in the borough's report, is basically landscaping proposal for Borough Hall and over at Rambo Park. So this was going to be discussed. Should we approve the check, or should we approve the bid first before we approve the check?
Dave? Dave, so are you saying that
Can you
they already
approve
delivered
the check
mulch and we have a
contingent
bill for it?
upon
But we
the
didn't
plan?
approve it?
So just, if I can just give background, and I don't know if we can make the motion contingent upon that approval, but yes, under my report, I have the landscaping proposals. The issue is they would like a deposit just for the mulch of 50%. And I don't want to wait I don't want to wait till June 9th to try to get a check, because that sets us back another, 6 weeks or 5 weeks. So I had asked John to prepare one. I don't know, Dave, if we can wait to approve the check with that, or if you want us to approve the landscaping thing now, or I don't know what the appropriate way to do it, but that's why I asked for a check.
I'm sorry, I missed part of that.
So there's bids for the landscaping, and we're going to approve the lowest bidder. But in the meantime, they already want a deposit. So John's asking for approval of a check. That would be the deposit, but that's before we approved them as our landscaper. So Tamara's asking, should we approve them as our landscaper first, then the check? Or can approve the check contingent on?
Are we doing the landscaping tonight? Are we approving the landscaping tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, well, you can approve the payment with the condition that they are approved as a landscape. And if they're
Okay,
not,
that's fine.
then the
So we
payment-
amend the motion to approve the payment.
I'll make
Contingent.
that.
Okay, thanks, Stu. Second,
Second.
Scott seconded. All right, all in favor, thumbs up. Okay, that's 7. All 7 approved. There's no nays, right? And if there are thumbs down, nays. All right, all 7 council members approved. Sorry, you guys, something happened and you all shifted positions. I don't know what happened there, but I can see you all. All right, good. All right, so we'll come back to that during your report, Tamara. Okay, go ahead, John.
Thank you. Next page is the bill list for the Liquid Fuels Fund. It is the standard charges from PECO for street lighting and traffic signal lighting. And the total is $2,302.76.
Is there a motion to approve the bill list for the Liquid Fuels Fund?
I'll make the motion for the Liquid Fuels Fund.
Pat made the motion and Pat second. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Thumbs up. Okay, all 7 council members approved. All right, go ahead, John.
Thank you. And page 3 is the bill list for the escrow fund. It is the check numbers of 1164 and 1165, covering legal and engineering charges for the month of March. And the total for the escrow fund is $1,367 even.
there a motion to approve the bills for the escrow fund? Pat's motion, Scott's second. All those in favor say aye. Thumbs up. Opposed? Motion carries. Mallory was checking me there. She's seeing if I was going to say all seven. All seven approved. All right, John, anything else?
Just that members of council should then have the rest of the report, cash receipts, balance sheet, P&L, profit and loss, key indicators, etc. If there's any questions on any of those, I'd be happy to entertain them. Pat?
So I apologize. I made my notes before I got the hard copy this afternoon, and now I can't find it quickly enough. So I'll just tell you, I had two questions, and just kind of a general nature, just fill me in. I have written down page 2 of the profit and loss under building permits, and I can't find it. But it said that we had collected like 17% of the anticipated revenue. And I was just wondering, Tamara, if you had any comments on where we stand, you know, how we feel with that. Is it likely to be a hit to the budget? Or are we tracking on that? What, any thoughts?
Well, I think we'll probably maybe have a better idea next month. I don't know how much of that is because there really wasn't much going on the last 6 weeks. And I think the next month is going to show us a lot of things, honestly. But yes, I mean, I'm going to be monitoring the budget more closely because it's obviously going to affect our, you know, our income tax revenues. So I think personally, I think once now that construction has started, I think it's going to pick back up fairly quickly because we were getting a lot of calls while we were closed. But I mean, I don't know if the fact that some people aren't working is going to push some projects off. Right. So I think maybe over the next month or so, we might get a better feel for that.
Yeah, good observation, Pat. So I think, like Pat said, we have to keep an eye on it, Tamara. It sounds like you're going to do that.
Right, just to back up what Tamara said, the building permits for the month of April were $254.
Yeah.
Right. And I do know the managers, Montgomery County Managers Consortium has a meeting on Friday, a virtual meeting, and one of the topics is potentially working with a consultant who is actually going to be looking at the revenues for all the municipalities and the effect of COVID. And the consortium has some of its own, like they have a budget and or a bank account, and they have a budget. So I don't know that they'll be looking for individual municipalities to contribute. Obviously, if they are, that would be something we discuss at the June meeting. I don't know. I just saw it as a topic, so I don't really have details, but I know that, you know, especially larger municipalities are extremely concerned about the impacts on the budget. And I certainly am as well. I just don't know that we have enough data yet to really know how that's going to affect us.
Okay, and my last question on this, on page 3, wherever that is, we have a lot of page 3s in John's work. The general expense was at 160% of budget, and I was wondering if there was anything in particular that was causing us after 3.5 or 4 months to be at 160%, unless I might be reading it wrong, but.
No, you're not, Pat.
So I know that when we looked at it, I looked at it last month, I think, when you had asked the question, because it was 75% and it was the red flag reporting goes under there, and that's like a one-time fee. And last year that was 75% of the line item.
It's like $680 or something.
Yeah, so it's I think $7. I can actually bring up that line item as we go on, and I can see what that charge was. I can get into QuickBooks from here. I don't know what that overage is without pulling the account, but I can look at that quick.
Right, but 160% of what's budgeted. So that's all I have. Thank you.
All
Sure.
right, so Tim, you're going to follow up on that. Maybe just
Yes.
email us back on kind of what's going on there. Good
Yep.
pick up that. All right, any other questions for John? Okay, Kathy.
All right, stay safe, everybody.
Take
Well,
care,
wait,
Jen.
I think
I
Kathy has a question.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I took off my headset. I guess that was it. Oh, well, yeah, great. No, I was just wondering,
Hey,
shouldn't we start
where'd he go?
seeing the impact of the new Pico billing of the LED lamps? Shouldn't we be seeing that soon?
We should, the bill that I got today is actually, for streetlights, actually 0. I don't think that's right either, but I could be wrong. I just got it today, so and it says something about your metered bill is delayed, sorry for the inconvenience. So but I saw that they removed all the old streetlights. So we should see that coming up. I just don't know what that is going to be exactly.
It's a good thing to track
I don't have a
that
bill.
we pick up, Kathy. Yeah, let's see what kind of changes, what kind of cost savings we see with the LED. All right, well, John's gone anyway, so let's move on. So the mayor isn't here, but we do have to ratify the declaration of the disaster that was dated for the dates of April 10th, 17th, 24th, and May 1st. So we just need a motion on that.
So move.
Okay, it's so moved by actually Stu, and then Mallory had her hand up. The second is first, sorry. Okay, questions or comments? All those in favor say aye, thumbs up. All right, all 7 have thumbs up. Unanimous, motion carries.
Thank you. Can I, moving, in regards to the declaration moving forward, I did get some clarification from a webinar that the Boroughs Association put on, that with the disaster declaration is declared by a mayor, it can only be declared for 7 days and has to be redeclared every 7 days. Council has the ability as the council to actually extend it for either a longer period of time, indefinitely until they suspend it, or, for example, you could declare it as long as the governor has his declared. I don't know if that's something that you want to
That's a good idea. So is there a motion to maintain our disaster condition as long as the state has declared a disaster?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, Valerie seconds it. Any questions or comments? Go ahead,
So
Kathy.
why don't we just make it indefinite? And then we can cut
Call
back
it off when we
when we're
want.
ready to.
I agree. I would rather that we revisit it after the governor acts so that we can terminate. Is that what you're saying, Kath?
We
I'm
don't
not
really have an
sure.
impact today. Well, anyway, go ahead.
I'm not sure, I'm sorry, I'm not sure you have the power to make it indefinite.
Well,
So I'd rather just do it until the governor terminates the state disaster.
okay, because it's a moot point, really. Once he terminates the declaration, we
It's not
can't.
like we would go beyond, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye, thumbs up. Okay, motion carries unanimous. All right, thank you. All right, now for our manager's report.
Thank you. Okay, so the first item is just an update on the 2020 curb repairs. So this year, we had West First Avenue and also Northborough Line Road that was being done in conjunction with Upper Providence. Upper Providence did the bid and is kind of taking charge for Northborough Line. And when I talked to their Director of Public Works, he had said that it had been bid and they had deferred the award from the April meeting to the May meeting, but he was anticipating they would award it and the work would be done probably late June. So with that, the curb repairs, the notices were sent out in December and people were given till May 8th to have that work done. With the construction being shut down for the last 6 weeks, we did have some phone calls asking for extensions. I looked at our paving contract and had Dave look at it, and he said, you know, we didn't have to do it early June. We could push that back. So I talked to Paul and said that's what I'd like to do, and I gave residents at this point till the end of May to have the work done. Now, if you recall, what we had discussed this year was if the residents didn't have it done on their own or contract with Drumheller on their own, and the borough, they wanted to piggyback on the borough contract, or we had to piggyback on the borough contract, we were going to charge the 10% administrative fee for having to bill the homeowner and collect from the homeowner and possibly have to lien the homeowner. Because of the situation that we're in and that people are having trouble getting contractors, I was thinking it would make sense that we waive, if somebody just wants to piggyback off the borough's contract, that we waive that 10% administrative fee as long as they pay within a certain period of time. You know, maybe it's 30 days from when we bill them. I did have a conversation with one of the residents on Northborough line today, and she had talked to Drumheller, and I believe that they were going to contract with Drumheller directly, so it really shouldn't be an issue, but I still think it would be a nice option if I could just say to the residents, listen, if you want Drumheller to do it, we can have them come in and do it, and we'll waive that 10% penalty this year because of the situation.
The interesting thing about that, because I was talking to several of the residents, being a resident of Northborough Line Road, and Drumheller's telling them it's 6 to 10 weeks before they can get out there or something like that. And that's what everybody's, I think, upset about, because they're not, you know, and Upper Providence isn't giving them real specific answers as to when this is going to go forward. You know, the COVID thing obviously being what it is a little bit adding to that. So I don't know what the Drumheller, if Drumheller's speaking for us, I mean, they've got to be kind of controlled, because they're just claiming that their backlog's too big to get out here and do the work. And I mean, that's the impression that I was getting from talking to people.
And
that's what I think, yeah.
I did kind of get that impression, but on the other hand, I had talked to Paul about having Drumheller come out maybe the second week of June, because that way people have had their chance. So if Drumheller has it in his schedule to come out the second week of June, that's 6 weeks out. He's going to do their work when he does our work regardless. And what she didn't understand, the one homeowner I talked to, was what I said is you either have to have it done or you have to have it contracted with Drumheller. He's going to do yours when he does ours, right? So he's going to come in and do it all. So he isn't going to do it by May 31st. She didn't understand that specific, you know what I mean? I don't think they understood that specifically. They thought even if Drumheller was doing it, they had to have it done by May 31st. But I mean, I can't speak for Drumheller, and I know he says a lot of things to people that, you know, for example, again, they're not happy about paying the curb permit fee, and Drumheller, you know, apparently said he thinks it's stupid and nobody else does it and they shouldn't have to do it. But, you know, you're right.
That was also repeated to me, which upset me only because he should keep his mouth shut and or say we're just passing cost. So anyway.
I agree. But I do think if we, you know, I'm going to try to push it out as far as I can, but on the other hand, I don't really have any control over, you know, what Upper Providence is doing. And I think if we said to them, hey, we're not going to have our curb stuff done until the end of June, you know, can you guys push it back to July? Or I think they probably could. But my fear is without giving people a deadline, I don't want, like, and that's what I said to her, you have to tell me when you can have it done. You can't just say you can't get it done.
Sure, no.
I need some kind of a time frame, because we all have to have the paving done before October 1st if we want to use liquid fuels money or whatever, you know, so.
I just think there's some concern about getting it done by, everybody believes the May 31st deadline. Anyway, I think Pat wants to say something.
My question was approximately how many people are we talking about on this Borough Line Road project that are needing to do curbs or sidewalks?
Not a huge amount.
I think there's 6 on Borough Line. And then I haven't heard anything from our West First. I mean, West First Avenue has the same issue. I know 3 people have already either had it done or are using Drumheller. And 2 of the properties are Public Works. They're going to do it. And then there's 2 others that I haven't heard from, but they did get a certified letter at the end of last month. So
On Borough Line, how many of you're saying there's 6 that haven't had the work done yet?
correct. I mean, none of them have had the work done. I believe
Nobody's
there's
had the work done.
6.
Oh, wait, I think the ones on between Claymore and Waterworks Park.
Correct. That's the road that we're doing. And
Done.
some of them are, not all of them. The Trident property owns, or I think it's Trident. The Sugar Hill development, that last piece that was Zavaric, that I don't think that's been done.
I think there has been. Where the mattress was thrown that time,
Yeah.
the back entrance, that's been done. It's a long stretch.
Well, they didn't get a permit, so I'll have to look at that. I mean, maybe they did. I know that there was the first house on Sugar Hill had like 100 feet that they had to do, and they did it. But then the next property had not done theirs. And the gentleman on the other side of at Sugar Hill and Clayhor, he has 6 feet that need done, and he just asked to have Drumheller do it because it's 6 feet, and he figured it wasn't worth getting a contractor out to do it.
So Tamara, I think you're saying, but when does what's the drop dead date for when the work has to be done?
If they were having a contractor other than Drumheller do it, I had given them a drop dead date of May 31st.
But when's the drop dead date for the work Drumheller is going to do?
Well, he was going to, I think I would say that we need to have him have the work done by the end of June if we want to coordinate with Upper Providence and the paving company.
So we need everything done by the end of June. So could it be they either have to make arrangements by May 31st to have it done sometime during June, or we're going to have Drumheller do it?
Which is fine, as long as you waive the 10% fee. I just think, given the COVID circumstance,
right,
the 10% administrative fee.
10%. But in terms of making sure it all gets done, because there was some confusion, you said, so it's going to be hard. It's about the 5th, Cinco de Mayo. So, it's going to be hard for anybody to get it done by the 31st of May. To get it done by, but they might be able to get it done.
Correct. I think as long as they have a contract and they have a contract.
Exactly.
My only concern is if they don't have it, like, we try not to schedule Drumheller until after they've been given a deadline, because say they say they're going to have a contractor do it June 20th, and Drumheller comes in June 13th or whatever, he's done on June 15th.
Right. Okay.
He's not going to come back to do a 6-foot section of curb or a 20, so that's my only concern is, maybe we tell him June 15th and we have him come in the last 2 weeks of June. I don't know. I can be flexible. I just need people to give me, they got to give me a date, and it's got to be a date before he's coming in case they don't get it done. But
good, Pat.
I don't know if our solicitor charges by the email he gets, but I wonder if on the final letter to them, and you say that, okay, now we haven't heard, we're going to schedule you with Drumheller, just put a copy to Dave Honorano's solicitor.
We don't actually have to.
Thanks, Pat. I appreciate that. My neighbors will love that.
I'm sure your neighbors will be doing the right thing because they'll be informed. But sometimes people need that. I do. I need that urgency, like, oh, this is serious.
Okay,
Well,
so
they-
Tamara's asking for some specifics here, so.
And they all got
They
a
have
certified.
Drop dead date of the 31st and waive the 10%. It could be a drop dead date of June 7th or June 10th, given the coronavirus. Probably not much after that because Drumheller has to know whether or not they're going to be doing their own side curb repair because they're going to do it if the homeowner doesn't contract with someone else to do it. So is there a motion to make on this? Go ahead, Scott.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we bump out the absolute deadline to have the work completed by June 30th, and committed to, if they're going to go to a third party, by June 15th. I'd also recommend that we ask Upper Providence not start the project until July. And then we waive the 10% administrative fee due to the unusual circumstances surrounding COVID.
Okay, let's get a second on that before we start with questions or comments. Is there a second? Pat seconds it. Okay, questions or comments?
What happens if Upper Providence doesn't go by what we're saying?
I'd have to throw that to Tamara. I don't know.
I think that they will. I mean, I can't swear to that.
Well, she can probably back to council. They're going to do it at their meeting, right? They're going to award it. When would you know if they're not going to be willing to do it in July?
I mean, I can reach out to them tomorrow and see if they would hold off till July and get back to you if they aren't. But
Under
I
the
think
circumstances, I mean, we can't.
I think they will.
Get everybody to get their curbs up. What about them and their curbs? Do they just do the curbs when they do the road?
I don't know how they do it.
I don't really have curbs
Can
on
you
their
answer
side.
that?
Yeah, I was gonna
That's
say,
how they
they-
handle it.
I don't think they have curb on that side.
There isn't curb on that side of the road.
Oh, there isn't any?
And they just
Well,
put
just
all
that
new
stretch across from Scott's house, it's a parking lot.
Yeah.
I know.
And they just
Just
they
asking
just put that
anyway, though,
in.
not particular to that, but let's find out how they handle curbs.
Okay.
I can tell you, a lot of municipalities will do this a year in advance. We've discussed this before. So know what your road program is for 2022. Give people notice in 2021. So they have a year to get it done and the drop dead date. So we never pushed up against this timeline. And most people will get it done the year before. We certainly have had a whole year to do it. When the drop dead date comes, and then you have the borough contractor do it. There's no reason why they have to do the state that you're doing the work.
We actually do have Barry Ice that went out in, I think it was, I don't know, April, beginning of April. We do have that for next year's. And so we just got those sketches recently from Paul, and we're going to be working on getting letters out now for.
Okay, so our best practice moving forward is a year, and they get notice a year in advance. That's our standard practice now, right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, David. That'll be our, we're a little short this time and all the times before, but we think we learned our lesson, and when you said this before, and now that's our standard practice. All right, anybody, okay, any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye, thumbs up. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Everybody's against it. No, everybody's for it. I'm kidding. Everybody's for it.
Thanks.
All right, Tamara.
Okay. Speaking of Kathy had brought up the LED street lights. The PICO rebate is being submitted directly by Michael Fuller. We do have a rebate from PICO, but he brought to our attention another potential rebate, and this comes from the grid supplier. And what it is they have to reduce power during certain hours and certain peak hours, and they are looking to use our street lights, our new apparatus for that. It only is a small credit because it only accounts for 0.27% of the hours that they need, but it could be about $1,000 over the 4-year period. It does not affect us from contracting power from another provider. We currently have it with Constellation. This comes from the grid, and I guess regardless of who our distributor is, it'll still come from that grid. So if council is okay with that, I can sign the agreement, but it would give us probably, they said, about $1,000 over the 4 years.
1,000 a year or 1,000 total?
I think 1,000 total.
Okay.
It's not huge.
Anything related to the time frame we could have the lights on or anything? It doesn't affect that at all, right?
No.
Okay.
So,
I think
Go ahead,
Pat's
Pat.
got a question.
so my question is, I want a little more clarification. Are we in fact talking about off-peak service, or are we talking about interruptible service? I don't understand how they're getting is it something that potentially, if they need to shave during high periods of demand, they will curtail?
My understanding is no, because we went with the power saving devices, right? So where they're already getting less usage because we installed efficient fixtures. So that in and of itself gives the reduction. But they're taking credit for that. I'm sorry, what?
I'd like to see the wording on the letter. I don't understand enough about what it is they're doing.
I mean, I had the everything I had in your packet. I mean, if we don't want to do it, we don't have to do it, but it is time sensitive to get into the program for the year. And that it really, I can read you the email that I received from along with the letter. It said the program has no impact with your energy procurement. There needs to be a qualifying multiplier that is used with the demand reduction number to create a year-round value within PJM, who's the grid. Street and exterior lighting has a 0.27 year-round value to PJM. PJM is concerned when the grid is vulnerable to blackout or brownouts. The hours of our concern are between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m., June 1st through August 31st, and 7 to 9 a.m. and 6 to 8 p.m. January and February. Street and exterior lighting is a 0.27 amount of those critical times. Therefore, that's what your payout is based on. That and the letters that I provided in the packet are all the information that I have.
Our lights aren't usually on between 2 in the afternoon and 6 at night.
That's why you only get a 0.27 credit. You don't get 100% credit because they're not on during the hours that they're looking, most of the hours that they're looking for a peak reduction. You're only on, the only times they would be on would be between 6 and 8 p.m. in January and February. That's the only time that affects the critical times.
Is it worth it to do it for $250 a year? I'll leave it up to the rest of you. I
don't know. I'm bringing it to, that's why I'm bringing it to you.
Well, say if it doesn't cost us anything or doesn't risk anything. I mean, you're asking a great question about whether if there was a surge in power needs, whether it would shut off our street lights. But I think the answer to that is no. I mean, if it is only $250 a year, but $250 is $250 if it doesn't. I mean, the way I read this, and I'm not an expert, and Pat, you have a long history in this area, but it basically says the reason for the rebate is that we put in an energy efficient solution for our street. It's almost like when you buy the energy, if you upgrade to the energy efficient or pool pump or rebate, it sounds like that.
Who's getting feedback here? Yeah, I don't know where that's coming from, but I think also it might be, it's just another way of dumping money back. So they created this program so they can act like they're doing something to help curtail. So it's not as much about, does it really make sense? Somebody developed a program and it got picked up by the utility company and they're running it out to the municipalities to say, look how proactive they are. So I don't have any objection one way or another. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm a
thanks.
spokesman for PJM too.
We don't have a motion yet, right, anyway, right? Does somebody want to make a motion on this rebate?
I'll make a motion for $250 a year.
Is there a second? All right, Scott seconds it. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye, thumbs up. All right, it's unanimous. Thank you. Go ahead. Next one, Tamara. You're on mute now.
Sorry. Collegeville is going to be getting proposals for street sweeping. We usually go in with them to do that. Jeff had asked me last week if we wanted to have the street swept again. I talked to him today. He didn't have quotes back, but last year, I think last year we paid $125 an hour. It takes approximately 10 hours and it's about $1,500. We did budget for that. I guess, like I said, they usually do it in June. If you want a firm number, I can wait until after the June meeting, but because it's late, I thought I would see as long as it's in that realm of around what we paid last year and it is budgeted.
Approve street sweeping up to $1,500 in June. Kathy made the motion, Pat seconds it. Any questions or comments?
Just want to make sure.
Thumbs up.
Want to make sure this, I'm commenting. Questions or comments? We want to make sure that the sweeping is done after all that crap falls from the trees because there was a, it has happened.
Right, and that's why we've been waiting till June, I think, to.
Yeah, okay.
They're starting to drop their propellers.
Aye, thumbs up. All right, it's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. I have finally been able to, last month I didn't have information on all the costs for the vertical lift at the building, but I did get all the contractors' proposals in the last week, and I did prepare a spreadsheet that shows you the total costs of elevator versus the ramp. Again, I don't know 100% what the cost of the ramp for construction is going to be, and I'm not going to put Paul on the spot because he's not a construction guy, but I mean, I think that they were thinking probably at least 25 to 30,000 until we have the design. I don't think they can really give a better number for that. I did get the cost for the lift, as you can see. The only other thing that is not on there, and I was talking with their permitting person today, everything we have for the permits is fine, except for somebody actually needs to look at the accessible route from the handicap ramp in the parking lot up to the elevator and then into the building. And from my understanding with going over with the contractors, all the clearances are there, but technically in order to be compliant with the UCC, we would need to have a plan done by a design professional that signs and seals that it is. So, and I haven't talked to Paul about this. I don't know if that's his department or if it's another department there. So I don't have a cost for that, but I would think it's probably, at least $1,000. I don't know. So
we need that either way, right?
Yes. I mean, you're going to need design work either way, but
yeah. So what are you asking, whether or not we're willing to go in one direction or the other?
Yeah, I think, I mean, we need to know it. So I need to know which way you really want to go so we can do something there.
All right. So you can see the two options. There's not that much in them, though, as Tamara said, the ramp construction, they don't have a more specific number on it. They think it's around 25 to 30. They're fairly close, about 10% difference. Does anybody want to make a motion so that we could talk about this on one option versus the other?
Or do we need a motion, Phil?
We can just discuss it.
Okay, I have a question. Okay, what I'm concerned about is I thought there was going to be more of a difference than there was, to be honest with you. But if it's only a $3,000 difference, All I know is I got to get a new car every 3 years or 4 years, at least turn to my lease. If you have something mechanical, if you have something that is concrete, like a ramp, it seems like it's more permanent and less can go wrong than
Yeah,
have
good
something
observation. Yeah,
go up.
go ahead, Bob.
Just from a standpoint of getting an ambulance litter in and out of a building, if you have a ramp if it's it's obviously going to be ADA compliant, you can use that to get an ambulance litter in and out. Depending on how big an elevator you get, you're not going to get an ambulance litter into that.
True.
Good point. Anybody else? All right, is there a motion for one of these, to move forward with one of these options?
I would like to I'll make a motion to look at putting a new ramp in versus doing a machine.
It's like starting the process, but not authorizing the actual installation.
That's
Right,
correct.
There's a motion, there's a second from Brett, I think. Any questions or
Scott
comments?
seconded, I third.
Yes.
Doesn't
What-
matter.
Bill, is that ramp going to be, or Tamara, can you answer this question? Is this ramp going to be as big or bigger than what we have right now?
Probably bigger. You're on mute.
Sorry. I haven't talked with Paul about how, when they get into design, they can look at that, but I think we might, instead of having all those switchbacks, you might be able to go a different route, but I mean, you still have to get parking lot to the building, and it has to be at what, less than I don't know, whatever the slope is. So
Yeah, that's the key.
you may not have to have the switchbacks, but then you might have to go like out from the building directly to the parking lot instead of going down to the concrete. Maybe, there might be a way to go around those bushes and by the playground and come out at the sidewalk there with the entrance. I don't know if
Yeah,
that would be
could it be a gradual
Yeah, but get some kind of, hold on, sorry, was it? Paul, we maybe get some kind of significant concept development without spending $8,600 on engineering, or that'd be the full engineering. Can we get some better idea about the ramp without, so that the council can say, oh yeah, that looks good, or hey, we're
Concept
concerned
plan.
about that?
Yeah,
Before
we'll take a couple hours. I mean, because I think we have enough survey stuff over there to get a general idea. We can throw a concept together on an aerial or something like that and give a general logistics of what you think, maybe a couple options versus if we just switch back what it looked like, or versus what you're talking about, maybe more of a gradual that goes a little bit farther out, so it's not switching back.
All right, so that won't cost us a lot.
No, we'll spend a couple hours on it and we should be able to come up with something.
Okay, sorry, Brett, you had a question.
No, I was just wondering if you've seen these like long, gradual curve kind of thing, but I don't know if that's, having a curved edge significantly adds to the engineering or construction costs as opposed to straight edges and right angles.
Yeah.
For something like, for the curved edges and all that, I mean, that's just a little bit more forming, but for something this small, I don't think it's going to be, between the straight and curved, it's going to be huge. It can be more, can you do a little bit where, can we go at 5% where we don't have the railing up to a certain point, maybe consider a little bit on that before you have to make it to the steep 8% where you need railing.
Yeah.
Anybody else? All right, so I guess the motion is for them to just proceed with some initial concepts, bring that back to council.
Yes.
Right? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Okay, it's unanimous. Motion carries. Go ahead, Tamara.
Thank you. In your package, there's educational piece on maintaining There's also, if anybody else would like a copy, we have them available at the Township Building. You can reach out, email me, call me, I can send it to you. And then you have in your packet a couple pieces of correspondence. One is a thank you from Connie and Bob Peck. And then the other is an email from someone on First Avenue, West First Avenue, and they actually were requesting the potential for, I'm sorry, they're on Sugar Hill. They were requesting whether or not street lights could potentially be installed on West First Avenue between Clayhor and Heritage Park as part of the paving project. And I did respond back that the paving, it'd be separate. It'd be a separate project from the paving project. The paving is just paving. I also did mention that we had just replaced all our street lights, so I don't know that we were looking to do anything else with street lights, but I would certainly share this with council, and maybe we could look at it as a potential project later. I think there's just a small section that doesn't have lights. I don't think it has sidewalk where they're specifically talking about though either. So.
Well, I'm surprised when I drive through Upper Providence, they don't have streetlights at all. When you come down 113, when I leave the church to come home on 113, it's completely dark. And then you get to Trav and we have streetlights.
Well, yeah, a lot of townships don't have near the amount of streetlights that the borough or boroughs have, especially in the more rural areas. That's mainly more in the developments and then your major arterial roads, from my experience anyway. But I just wanted to make you aware of the correspondence, and maybe it's something that the Streets and Safety Committee want to think about when they meet or talk.
I drive there several times a day, back and forth. That's my route. I'll pay more attention now to see, but I'm not aware of any. I know the deer cross there, but I'll pay more attention to some of his concerns. But I don't know that there's any action item for us.
No, I'm just making sure I'm just sharing the correspondence with you. That's all.
Great. Yep.
I mean, it was a pretty well-written letter. I mean, it points to the fact that there's dumping, and there could be less dumping if it's lit, that there's people that want to walk there. It's not so safe because it's dark. And, like you said, Pat, the deer crossing the light might, keep the deer away to some extent. So I thought it was a pretty reasonable letter. I'm trying to, I don't use that very often, so I don't really know.
I do have another comment. When I read it at first, I was for some reason thinking traffic lights. I thought, what are they talking about? But now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder, where do we stand on the, Rambo Park lighting was such a smashing success. That looks beautiful over there. Where do we stand on lighting for Waterworks Park? And I wonder if we do see that there is a deficient area there on West First Avenue, that when we illuminate the park in some way, maybe we would at that time take it under consideration. Where do we stand with lighting for Waterworks Park? We had thought we had approved at one point moving forward.
I speak to that a little bit. If I can speak to that, Pat. At Public Works, we got an estimate for some lighting at Waterworks, and it's amazingly expensive. So, like $60,000, and that's if Joe and his guys do a lot of the electrical conduit, to include the parking lot as well as some down toward the pavilion. So, we're still looking at it sort of, but there are other things that that are higher priority at this point, as far as the Public Works Committee was concerned.
Right. Thank you for that input. Tamara, is that kind of consistent with what you experienced price-wise at Rambo?
Rambo only had a couple.
Two.
Right, and they only were pulling it in from the road, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, what is that, 30 feet?
Very different project.
So Waterworks, I'm sure they'd have to run much more electric
much bigger
line.
And would it still be aerial, not
For
underground?
the section of First Avenue, what would it cost to put 5 streetlights there?
I have no idea. I'd have to get a proposal from,
No, just ballpark. I mean, anybody know a ballpark? What's a streetlight cost?
well,
Is it $1,000?
Well, with the pole and the
$4,000?
lamp, I'd say 10 or 15 apiece.
well, we
Really?
put
Okay.
2 in at Rambo. We put 2 in at Rambo, and it was like 5,000, like 4,000 or 5,000, I think. 5,000.
Each?
No, for both. So you're looking at me, and
There's 3 there.
I don't know if
3,000
the
each?
yeah.
What are you saying, Bob?
There's 3 streetlights in Rambo.
There's only 2 poles though.
2 poles, correct.
There's 3. There's the one pole has a fixture pointing towards the pavilion and towards the parking lot. And one of the reasons we did it that way was because I thought you were concerned that you wanted some lighting towards the parking lot, and the price that we got for the poles from Lenny, who does our work, was cheap enough that I had that money left that I could get another fixture, because we have a set price for the fixtures right now. We under that contract. So I don't know, I don't know when we go to put in new streetlights somewhere and we use those fixtures, if we're going to get that same price that we had under the contract, if that makes sense. So I don't know exactly, but I would think you're looking at probably $2,000 to $3,000 for each light, I would assume. I don't know. I'd have to talk to them and see if that's a good price.
So Kathy, it's
All
your
right. Well, it sounds
understanding.
like I don't see a lot of appetite for this in council right now, unless there's someone.
Well, just so that I can close out in my mind. Kathy, so are you saying that the Public Works is done with the issue? They're not interested in lighting the park?
I'm not
Well-
saying we're not interested. What I'm saying is we
Not
have,
a priority.
yeah, and we've got a lot of new people from Collegeville, so we're really just barely dealing with the critical.
Okay.
Well,
And I'm getting a whole lot of,
Thank you.
Yeah, also to add on to Kathy's point too, and maybe Dave could jump in on this. If I recall correctly with that conversation, if there's improvements like that, it can't come out of Public Works money. It has to be split. Any capital improvements, I believe, have to be paid by the borough. And I think it has to be split 50-50 with Collegeville and Trapp. Is that correct, Dave?
You mean at the Rambo Park?
No, this is over at Waterworks Park.
Waterworks.
Waterworks Park, I'm sorry. Well, the boroughs could allow it to come out of Public Works, but generally, in the past, you've paid for it with borough money, not money that was intended for Public Works, which is, your water company essentially. So, I think the boroughs could vote to use Public Works money for the lighting since it's a park, but generally you've not done that.
Can I just play devil's advocate and we'll put it to bed? So the reality in my mind is I agree with what Dave said. The two boroughs can vote. Collegeville is not likely to support this because the vandalism, the problems are not in their borough. If we don't get the support of the public works, like Joe Hastings and all, who's right there, to move that forward, it's probably not going to happen easily. Is that fair assessment, Kat?
I don't know about that. I want to do that.
I
Well,
think an
we're still
argument
trying
that
to figure out what to do. You know, the first couple of meetings we had to fight through
Salt
closing
shed.
down the salt shed. So now we can re-raise the Waterworks Park. Now there's some benefit to Public Works to move the lighting forward in Waterworks, but because they're the ones who keep going back and fixing
Correct.
it again and again and again and again. So they have some motivation to do that, but it was quite pricey, in the $60,000 or $70,000 range, which was a lot bigger than we thought it was going to be. So that was with the last Collegeville Council. We need to raise this again and start talking about it here
Okay.
with the new council. So I can raise it again and we'll talk about it with the new council then.
Get Bob.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. All right, so in terms of Waterworks Park lighting, Kathy's going to talk to the new Collegeville Borough Council. In terms of the letter that we received, there's no interest or appetite right now on moving forward with lighting on First Avenue around that Sugar Hill section. Right, okay. Right, go
Yeah,
ahead.
and even if they do decide to do something with lighting and waterworks, that work's going to be far enough away from First Avenue that I don't see that tying in well at all.
Yeah, good point.
But when the Zavar property finally gets developed, they would have to put streetlights in
There you go.
because that's their property.
That'll solve it.
And I apologize. I did miss one thing on my report, which was the landscape bids. So
Yeah, it was nice.
sorry about that. I guess I was in a hurry. I did go out to 5 landscapers and ask proposals. I got 2 back. So I had Russo and Triton who did it last year. And you can see on my report the totals. I had a conversation with Stu and we took out the playground mulch. And I'm going to see if I can find a company that maybe just does that and get a better price. But if you take out the playground mulch, and then we have Russo's bid was $89.90. And Triton's, I actually have a typo. Triton's was actually $20,550, not $10,550.
Okay, so
So
is there a
Russo-
motion to approve Russo's bid, the low bid for this?
I'll make that motion.
A second. Scott seconds it. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Unanimous. Motion carries.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Tamara? All right, solicitor's report. Dave?
I am glad Paul stayed for my report because I have no report. Other than we have a few things to discuss in executive session.
Yeah. Do we need Dave? Dave, do we need Paul for that executive session?
It might be helpful, actually.
Yeah, I think it will be. Paul, we're gonna ask you to stay even longer.
Paul, you didn't have plans for tonight, did you?
Throw me in. Okay.
He's missing his COVID party. All right. So is there a motion to select this to approve the staff reports? Scott?
Yep.
Scott, motion, Pat second. All those in favor say aye. All thumbs up. That's unanimous. All right, committee reports. Administrative
Phil,
services.
could I bump Bob up to the front of that so we can let him
Okay.
loose?
Yeah, Bob's been on for a long time. Yeah. All right. So go ahead, Bob. We're going to start with safety, right? Traffic and safety.
So I did send in a copy of my report. Very slow month. We only had 20 calls for the month. So again, like I said last month, it seems that even though everybody's staying home, it's reducing the amount of, accidents on the roads. And, even, I guess people are just being careful in the home. So that's, fire prevention is good prevention.
There you go.
Hey, Ben.
I'm sorry, Stu.
Yeah, one question though I have on your report. I thought you said when it comes to EMS and stuff like that, the fire company is not going on those calls with EMS. It looks like on your report there's a couple incidents that you did assist EMS.
Correct. So you'll see that there are incidents where we go to the same address to help the ambulance. The policy that we changed with that address is we're only going once the ambulance determines that we are absolutely needed. We had been on kind of like an automatic dispatch because we were going to go anyway, but that changed. And then one of those calls at that address was actually not our ambulance who called. It was a transport ambulance who needed assistance. And they called 911 thinking they could get somebody to come, and the 911 just dispatches everybody. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we are, I think we did touch on this a while ago, that, we had kind of taken a little, break from the building committee. We're having our executive board meeting tomorrow night. So I'm going to be asking our executive board to get the members of the building committee back up. I think we've reached a point, during this COVID crisis that we can, don't have to pay as much attention to that as we had been, and we can start paying attention to moving forward with a new building with the borough.
Okay.
How is the COVID infection? I know you had 2 members that did get hit with it.
Correct. We have gone back to a lower below when we had our policy and procedure with members in the firehouse that were affected. We actually changed our policies and procedures. We've since rescinded that. We're still wearing masks. We're still doing the disinfectant. Montgomery County does have a equipment that actually uses hydrogen peroxide to clean the fire apparatus. We took advantage of that. That was available to fire companies that did have members who were contaminated. Knock on wood, we have had no EMS persons affected by that. So we've changed our response procedure a little bit. We're still keeping only 4 people on a truck, so we can keep some social distancing in the back of the truck, and so on and so forth. But we're seeing recovery from that event.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, and again, I know this is a public meeting, it'll be recorded. The outpouring of support from private citizens and local businesses donating food. We've had 2 or 3 nights this month where businesses or private companies have taken the time to bring in meals for all the volunteers and their families and the duty crews who are working. We have a local business who is offering free pizza every Saturday until the pandemic is over. So it's very nice to see the community. People are having a hard time financially, but the businesses are still, and people are still want to support the volunteers and the first line responders here.
That's awesome.
Okay, great.
We are just another note too. We're doing the same thing for our training now online. And last night we took advantage of online training and did a training with both Perkiomen and Collegeville members. So we're all in the same boat trying to figure out how to come up with different training things online. So we took advantage. We took advantage of this and invited our surrounding partners to be on the meetings with, or our trainings with us.
Good. Anything
thank you
else
for your
for,
continued support.
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Anything else for traffic and safety? All right, Bob, thank you very much.
All right, I'm gonna excuse myself and have a good night, everybody.
Yep. you
Take care,
too.
Bob.
Well, thanks.
Take care. All right, Kathy, Administrative Services?
Just the one thing Tamara wants us to talk about in executive session about
Okay.
Ellen's benefits. So.
All right, thank you. I think we know where we are with finance and streets. So, park, recreation, and open space. And Stu, can you also comment on the kind of email exchange that happened between yesterday and today? Some information from Fred and from Lisa Minority. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, first of all, is we did, we got, the big thing is we got a landscaper in there, and I feel that they'll
Thanks
do a
for
good
doing
job.
that. Good work.
Okay, so second of all, one thing I will look at, once things calm down a little bit, the butterfly garden, we have to make a decision on and stuff. And also, I'm going to look at potential places like Borough Hall and stuff like that. For example, where the bench is and stuff, maybe removing some of those bushes with Public Works. So I'm going to go work with Tamara and stuff like that on there. As far as the emails that was through Lisa and through Fred and stuff, I did have a brief conversation with Tamara on this today. Of course, we're going to look at it, but it's basically the same type of grants that we're going to that we did beforehand. If there's grant money out there, there's no reason why we can't go ahead and utilize it. I believe Fred mentioned something with one of the grants, possibly using the money to do a walkable space from where the Main Street Park is through a St. Augustine Church. That's something that we can look at. So I appreciate the input that people gave us, and we will look into that decision. Also, one other thing, as far as on regional sewer authority, we are proceeding with the Interceptor project. Alan Myers did get a waiver, okay, so it really didn't slow our process down. Of course, we have the Eagle's Nest that is going to delay certain areas, but we're moving to other areas, and the engineer is being safe on those items. Does that answer your question, Phil?
Yeah, just one comment. So, well, two things. So Fred pointed to, that Main Street Vision Plan that was created around, I guess, 2016, 2017. And maybe not every aspect of that, but is any of that usable or something that's worth putting into the grant? A, and B, I thought I saw, Lisa had referred to the Monco 2040 grant, but I thought I saw the deadline for that was March of this year, at least for 2020.
Tamara, do you?
Sorry, it's the Monco 2040 grant, and it has to do with 20-year vision or whatever, 25 years.
No, I know that, but
Right,
for
so
this year,
we would have to apply next year, and just, I think, I sat down with Mary Isitz, and we did look at the Main Street Vision Plan, and I have an email I can forward out where she kind of picked out pieces that maybe we could utilize in looking at grant applications. But again, it's things like potentially granite curbing, decorative crosswalks, some planters, and some trees. So, maybe we can. And as far as the Monco 2030 grant, I actually talked to, I think it's Scott France, who's the contact person at the county for that this year, because we were so over budget with the Green Light Go. I was trying to see if maybe we could utilize that for some of the sidewalk improvements or the handicap ramp access. And, I keep getting told, and I don't know, they don't want to do stuff where it's just a replacement of what's there. They want new things. They want, they want to add things. Yeah. So I think like that sign, like the Welcome to Trap sign would be great. thing for that. Or even, we could wrap that into this grant for the sidewalks, but I can't get an easement, so I don't know that it makes sense to apply for a grant to put a sign up for where we don't have the property, unless there's another location in the borough that maybe we need to think about another location down in that area.
Well,
But
no, that's understood. So I think that it'd be great if you could send to the council that summary that you referred to that kind of looked at the vision and where there might be some opportunity. I think we'd benefit from seeing that. We may not do anything, but if we have an understanding of those kinds of things. And has everybody seen the Main Street vision plan that Fred's referencing?
Yeah, I was back on council when that happened.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't on
I've
council
seen
when it
portions of
happened.
it, yeah.
Yeah, I was. I think it was a $30,000 waste of money, but yeah, whatever. My
This
humble.
This one is, they redid it, and it's a draft that's out, correct, Tamara? There's a draft out that I think 6 municipalities were highlighted, and Trap was one of them that
Yeah,
was.
that's what Lisa was referring to. Yeah.
It's a little
Fred's
different.
referring to the vision plan, and Lisa Minardi's referring to the fact that when they talk about this 2040 grant, that Trap's one of the
Right.
areas they highlighted.
6 that are highlighted. In my opinion, I feel very strongly, nothing we do on Main Street, nothing, little big pots or whatever, maybe the sign, nothing is going to make a greater impact than curbs and sidewalks.
Oh, sure, agreed, but they may be two different things.
I understand, but nothing will have as great an impact as curbs and sidewalks.
No, we're not, so they're not mutually exclusive, right? So in other words, the grant that so to Tamara's point, the 2040 grant is not a typical grant where you would just replace, we have bad sidewalks, we want to replace them. That's not what they're really looking for. They're looking for enhancements that make their main streets more interesting and walkable. The DCED grant, can't hear you.
sorry, you're correct, DCD, yes, sorry.
DCED grant is something where it is within scope to replace sidewalks. So I think these aren't mutually exclusive things. You can only do one or the other. So I agree with you. Priority is get our sidewalks and curbs in shape. But if we can get some free money to do enhancements, and nothing's free, right? To Kathy's point, you always have to pay something, even if you do get a grant. So, but we have to have kind of full information, understand whether or not we want to do something or not do something. And I don't think we all are on the same page in terms of understanding what that vision plan had. Some of it might be usable, most of it might not, I don't know. So let's look forward to getting that stuff from Tamara.
Just a
Well,
thought
but
there.
I do have to agree with Pat that, if we're actually in the people that I've talked to about how they feel about using a lot of borough money to make Main Street look nicer. Most of the people that I talk to say no, that they're businesses and they need to have some skin in the game. So
I think a lot of that changed for me and the people I talk to now with the economy the way it is. I think people recognize that it's going to be really, really difficult getting anything done on Main Street because of what has happened in the world. And we can't afford to push it off another 10 years. So for me,
But
that's
I just wanted to raise that there is an attitude that says, most of the people who own properties on Main Street are businesses, and we need to make sure that they have some skin in the game.
I think that's a really important point. Agreed.
Yeah, they're not getting a free ride.
Yeah, it's no free ride because the businesses don't pay much at all for the privilege of living in Trap. And I know they sing the blues all the time that we don't do anything for them, but they don't pay anything either. So
that's a good point, Kathy.
Yeah, just so you know, at the business committee meeting, we didn't have that many business owners there. But we did bring this issue up, and they did not balk in paying at all. One business wasn't gonna, it doesn't have a sidewalk, but I think it was the vet building, the vet center over there. They said they own other properties and they have to pay for the sidewalks. The person who owns the strip over there near the car wash, he basically said, yeah, you know, maybe we can help and look at a couple other things, which we'll talk about in other things, but he did not balk at paying for the sidewalks. The new person, of course, in Connie Peck's property, who owns that, of course, she got new sidewalks. She didn't balk. The one person, I think, who was a hairstylist or someone else who wants every Friday to be like Phoenixville and have first of the month on Fridays, she was the first person that said you can't have a first Friday unless you fix your sidewalks. So all I'm just saying is the business owners at this meeting, wouldn't you agree, Tamara, did not balk at paying the bill.
Right.
Great.
Oh, that's good. So if they get skin in the game, it's worth it. And I think in addition to sidewalks, which are vitally important to us, I think we need to add 12 more bars if we're going to be like Phoenixville.
And a lot of parking.
The one thing I wanted to mention, if the historical societies, that interested in doing this, if you take a look at what Schwenksville did, is they incorporated some stuff where they have some kind of little brass placards or something that are embedded in the sidewalk along the way at notable points and with the historical locations.
There you go.
Something like, so maybe, they could work in and maybe that ties into some, because I think a lot of those were going to tie into something with your phone, you could link to some site. Now you can get some potential advertising in there and the businesses involved, but somebody would have to come up with that vision. I would think somebody from the Historical Society would jump at something like that.
Well, you saw Lisa's response. I mean, she's very interested in helping. I mean, I think if we could bring this all together and the businesses and the Historical Society and any grant money, who knows what we could do with Main Street.
Yeah, it might be worth having a chat with
to the borough.
Schwenksville and Gibb. I mean, Gibb's the one who's always been telling us, about what they've been doing over there at the regional meetings.
Yeah.
I'd still like some clarification on our income level, because a couple meetings ago, we were hearing that we didn't qualify for these grants. We were different from Collegeville. We were different from Schwenksville because our income level's too high. So I kind of want, Mara, you want to weigh in?
Sure. Schwenksville qualifies for the CDBG, which is the Community Development Block
Grant.
And that is income based. However, a lot of they did get a grant. I think a few years back they did a lot of sidewalk and they changed their parking and they did some stuff. But the last 3 or 4 years, 5 years, I don't know, Schwenksville has applied for the 2040 Monco grants and gotten those, and they've done some sidewalk improvements, but with new things. Like they did a little downtown plaza. They replaced the sidewalks around that. They, one year they did some work on the trail, and maybe they replaced a piece of sidewalk with the trail. They did something with a mural, I'm good friends with Ann. I worked with Ann years ago, and we've talked about this, and she said the reason they consistently get the 2040 grant is because they know that Schwenksville has very little revenue, but also because she comes up with ideas on, like, she thinks out of the box. Like they did the plaza, they did some other things to make destination places on Main Street rather than just replace the sidewalk. So if you can come up with something like that, you can certainly get that. And then what I did find out from talking with the CDBG person that handles that's handled by Montgomery County, even though it's a state grant. I was told that you can apply for projects that deal just with accessibility if you're not income qualified, because they feel that projects that benefit the disabled oftentimes benefit a lower socioeconomic group. So as a whole, they look at that group as a potentially income qualifier. So we may be able to have projects like for the handicap ramps on Main Street. Maybe that's something we pull out and you apply for a specific grant for that. So I wasn't aware of that until the last few months, that you could do things for accessibility under CDBG. But the sidewalk CDBG grant money, we don't qualify. We could for this multimodal.
We were talking about block grants before, Pat. It still holds regarding the block. This is a different grant that Tamara's talking about.
But that helped because I wasn't quite understanding that it was the block grants and not the others.
To be honest with you, you're raising a good question, because we kind of talked about grant. This is true for me, that there's some kind of black mystery box of what are grants. There seems to be so many that you can't tell what they're for and who they're targeted, and could we, could we get one or not? And I don't know enough about what's that. We don't really have a full appreciation for what's out there and what we might get.
And I've been working on trying to create like a notebook or a cheat sheet, if you want to call it, where I kind of outline the different grants, the different and whether or not we're eligible or maybe eligible, and the different types of projects that could go under those grants that I can distribute to you all, because then you do have something that you can say, oh, and if you have an idea for a project or there's something that we're thinking about, we can say, oh, that might fall into this grant. So, I mean, I think that would be a worthwhile. Well, in my free time.
It would be helpful. It'd be very helpful. Go ahead, Pat.
I think that we all will try to think out of the box.
Yeah.
Like in Shanksville, remember they had that big, was it the Snyder's hardware store, the warehouse that was taken down, and the fire company. So they had in the past several years huge buildings right on Main Street there that were removed. So it opened up space to do things and access.
We have some pretty amazing historical properties and more coming, and I just think there could be something we could do. So I'll tell you what, this gets hard, I think, having meetings this way because we're all remote. So why don't we try to move on, unless there's more, if there's something more we want to talk about in the park and recreation space. All right, so how about the business committee? I think you summarized. Did you want to add anything to that, Stu?
No.
All right, so planning, zoning ordinances and regional planning, Brett?
Yeah, nothing going on there.
All right, thank you. Public Works and CTMA, Kathy?
Okay, you have the financial reports in your packets, and I think Mallory and our other treasurer did a great job moving money around before the markets tanked, because we've gotten some pretty reasonably decent rates on some of our reinvested materials, so that was good. Let's see, where are my notes from those meetings?
Yeah, we actually got a couple of CDs at 2%. So compared to what it is now, that's really good.
Nice, pretty awesome.
Yeah, they did some great job, but the rest of them are, the other ones are not looking so good. Yeah, basically, Stuart, he gave you some insights from the from the regional and the work that's being done on the Middle Interceptor. Joe's got his team out there doing some work for us on the storm sewers. And otherwise, they've completed all but a couple of the new water meters. And the ones that he's waiting for are special orders because they do a larger volume of water rather than the small volume that most homes get. I do need you to pass an agreement that we are not, for this current billing cycle, going to charge the excess fee. I think there's a 10% increase if you're late on your water and sewer bill on the most recent, on the bill that's due this month. So we need both the boroughs to agree, Public Works Committee and, well, CTMA doesn't need your approval, but Public Works does, that we will not charge the increase if your bill is not paid in the first period. If your bill is paid late, we're not going to charge the interest.
Great.
Okay, so
Good.
that's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second by Stu. All those in favor say aye, thumbs up.
Oh, Scott's not here.
Scott's not in the picture, so it's 6 and 1 abstain.
6-1, so that still carries.
Just, yeah, the motion carries.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was, that's pretty much it. I don't think I'm forgetting anything.
All right, thank you, Kathy. And then information, communication, and technology.
So I just wanted to inform you of something so that we're all on the same page, okay? So that you've been made aware. There's no need, in my opinion, to take action at this time. But regarding the Facebook page, there are two things that are outstanding. In the past, like in years past, when Senator Mensch would send his newsletter, I would post it on the Facebook page because he represents us and it's useful information. And the same with Tom Quigley. I would post it. He's our representative and useful information. Well, I started noticing that Joe Cerisi, and I have talked with Sarah about this, and I've talked with Representative Cerisi as well. So it's not news to them. But when their newsletter comes now, the way it's being generated in Harrisburg, it's being generated out of a separate office. It's almost like a puppy mill sending these newsletters out across the state. And it says, it has an emblem on it that says, brought to you by the House Democrats. So I explained to them that I don't feel comfortable putting that on the Facebook page because he's our representative for everybody. And it's I felt a good catch that it shouldn't say House Democrats. Now, I have since learned, and Joe agreed and Sarah agreed, but because it's being generated out of the Democratic caucus, so to speak, because it's part of their information campaign, they can't undo it. So I haven't been I put what I can, but it's hard to put the newsletter. So I had been putting Senator Mensch's up, but this last week he had a lot of great stuff, but now they're doing it. And they have brought to you by the Senate Republicans. So they have an emblem on their stuff that comes up repeatedly. So just to make you aware that I have a real sensitivity for nothing that could be construed as partisan, but I think that we can and should put information to all the voters or all the residents. So if we put something about the change in location of the voting place. So which brings us to, somebody had wanted us to put up something about the voting location, and they're looking to consolidate other locations into one. And it was like 9 inches of text. Well, don't send me 9 inches of text and expect me to condense it and interpret it. So I'm not interpreting anything Montco Voter Services. And then today found out that it hadn't voted on it yet. And I was being told along the line, because it had been passed from this one to that one to that one, put this out, you got to announce it. So just because somebody says you got to announce it, we got to use our noggin a little bit to help everybody, because it keeps us all straight. So my understanding is that they're going to be voting on May 11th, they meaning, I don't know, the Senate, the House, to allow some other voting locations to come to South. Now, whether they're in a different entrance or I don't know how they're going to do it. That's why I don't want to be interpreting and putting it out to our residents. So, you know, we're not voter services. We're not the disseminator of voter information. So I just want us all to be clear on that, but we'll do our part to inform as the judge of elections or the county voter services passes information of a nonpartisan.
Yeah, I think that's entirely appropriate.
Yeah, I
So
think you're
just wanted-
spot on, Pat.
So just wanted to make sure. That's it.
So what you're saying, Pat, is with Ursinus and a couple of districts, that has not been voted on in coming over to South? You said no?
She said no, it hasn't been voted on by the, you know, the state legislature. Just maybe locally that's what.
Announced it. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Tamara, do you want to say something?
I would say in the county press conference yesterday, they announced the proposed plan too, but they said that it was going to be voted on, like Pat said, May 11th. But when you read the notification from Voter Services, it does say proposed plan, but the way they put it out there made it sound like that's what it was. So.
Yeah.
And I try hard to be accurate, really hard to be accurate. And to give 9 inches of stuff that I don't know what they're talking about, we could have easily gotten in trouble, and it shouldn't be. I was going to say, Tamara, also, I noticed tonight on our website that you put out about the opening on council.
Yes.
So I don't think, like, I don't have any way of following you. You can follow Facebook, so every time I put something up, it automatically comes to you all. But I don't get notices, so I didn't have anything up on that.
Oh, I'm sorry. We did it after the last meeting where we talked about putting it out there. But
I'm not trying to generate my own material. I'd rather pick from you. So stay in touch with me whenever you put things out there so that I can, pick it up and include
What's
it.
the deadline, Tamara?
May 15th.
All right, why don't you tag it now, Pat? You still have about a week.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's good observation.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, that's it for the committee reports. Any old business? Okay, the only new business was trap days and something Tamara and I talked about a little bit. She put in your packet the cost of the contract. So what it costs us about 10 grand for trap days. Between donations and vendor charges, we break about even on that 10 grand. So you get some feedback, Pat? Yeah. So we break about even on the 10 grand. It's a great day, and the questions obviously come up, and some municipalities have already, I think, canceled their annual event. Ours is in September, so I thought it was a little premature right now to cancel. It's only the beginning of May. Certainly something we could talk about at the June meeting. Things could change a lot in a month. So if it's okay with all of you, I suggest that we continue on the path as if we're having it and revisit this at the June meeting. And we have to make a decision at that point to not go forward with it. We always could.
I think it's too early to cancel it. I agree with you. Just let it play out for a little bit longer.
I don't disagree with that, but I just call on you to remember that Waterworks Park is a very tight park, and that's what we've enjoyed in the past. We're all kind of crammed together, and it's kind of cool, but the pathways are narrow. Everybody's side by side.
Well, last year we had plenty of room to spread people out,
We did.
given the turnout. So
Yeah. a lot of work and little turnout, so.
If I could just ask a few questions and follow-up questions. I'm assuming because I'm anticipating questions we could get, if it would be canceled, I would assume we would return vendor
Yeah,
or vendor fees or
Yeah.
donations.
absolutely.
Okay, and then we want to keep in the past, we've charged $100 until June, I think until June 15th or there's a due date, and then it was $125 after that. Maybe we waive the late fee, or maybe
Yeah,
we
keep
make
it
it
the
the end of
same.
June,
Yeah.
okay.
Keep it the same.
Okay. Then we'll
We'll
push
see how it
that
goes, yeah.
out. Do we want to go ahead and secure, now, the only other thing I'm not sure of, and I guess this is a question we'll have to ask the people, like the entertainment and stuff. I don't know if we sign contracts and we cancel, if we get our money back. So I think that's something we're gonna have to look at.
Yeah, can you look into that?
I think
Yeah.
it's probably going to depend on each one individually, and then if we can't, then maybe we don't want to contract with them.
We'll need to make sure we put an out clause in all those contracts for us.
Have we signed anything yet?
No, we haven't signed anything
Yeah.
yet.
Dave, can you give Tamara a clause that we say is required in all of our contracts? An out clause?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think, we usually take their standard contract, but I think in this situation, we need to make sure we can get our money back. So,
It's still
okay.
a state of emergency in the state, and we're still, and things, this virus comes roaring back, or who knows what could happen. So we need some protection. Go ahead, Kathy.
Well, I was just going to recommend that, let's think seriously. How important is it that we have that baseball guy walking around? It's only $100 or whatever it was. It wasn't high. Do we really need the petting zoo? I'm just saying, we could cut back a lot, and I don't think we would. I don't know how many people come because their kids just love to jump
Well,
on
I'll
them.
tell you, I don't know about other people, but walking, I don't know about Scott and Stu and whoever, Mallory. I got a lot of good feedback walking around about Trap Day. And to be honest with you, I had people that didn't really know about it and found out accidentally, like the day of, or saw people walking. They didn't feel like they really knew about it in advance, but the people that went said it was awesome.
Oh yeah, no, it's a great
I'm
event.
just saying that,
But
like,
I'm thinking that if we want to maybe instead we just tone it down a little bit
we
this
could, yeah. I think the reason Tamara, you're right, Kathy. The reason Tamara put this in front of us was to say, is there anything we want to knock off because it costs so much that I think the value's not there. Now, we can go down this list if you want. I'd say the Aerial Adventures is a big hit.
Guys, I think it's pointless to do this right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
let's
it's
talk about
early
it.
to do this, but I'm just suggesting maybe,
Good point, Kathy.
Yeah, it's good.
Is any
we
of this not worth
tone
it?
it down rather than cancel it altogether, because I'm ready to cancel it. I don't think it's going to be, but I'm very pessimistic about the virus, and that's my
Right.
medical opinion.
Yeah.
My
I
professional
tend to agree there, and I feel too that the effort that we put in every year, it's a nail biter at the end because we can't get the help that's needed. It's a lot of effort at the end. So anyway, but we have plenty of time to talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So with that, we're going to adjourn this meeting. Scott, do we have anybody else on?
Yes, caller one.
Is that Fred?
I have nothing at this point. I'm going to get a follow-up email on some of the issues that'll go to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred.
Thanks, Fred.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Good night.
Have a good night.
And, okay, with that, guys, I'm going to terminate the recording. And this
Great.
recording
Okay.
should be available on the borough website after it compiles, probably tomorrow.
And,
Excellent.
and
May 6th.
everybody is in a secure, like we don't have family members like sitting there